Hey, Bill, I'm in the mood for a switch up. I hit the function, hit the rose till I hiccup. I hit the stage and leave with money that's a stick up. She picture perfect, so I told him I'm a flick up. Bill, I'm in the mood for a change up. I leave the city and return with my change up. They got amnesia, don't remember how they play.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Spot Real Talk. My name is Tiara.
I'm Lawanda.
Tiffany.
And I'm Ron.
And today we are back to give you another recap of BMF. This is season 1, episode 5, and it was titled Secrets and Lies. And there was a lot of that going on this episode. So, guys, if you hang tight, we'll get started with the conversation in just a second. We are back. Like I said, we're talking BMF. We got episode 5 now. It's getting closer, and I think we keep saying this, but they definitely turned up the heat this week. We see Terry and Meech. They are waist deep in some mess with Lamar. I mean, that whole situation really upped the ante this week.
And before we start, I like to memorialize my Baltimore Ravens. They look a mess this week. You may not be in Baltimore, you may not care, but I care. And I thought I was doing right by wearing my Baltimore gear, but let's just pray for these boys. They great. I said it. Done.
Same with a prayer for Meech and Terry after this little shenanigan they pulled this week.
Yeah. I've been concerned about this situation. I think based on the previews from last week, you could tell that something pretty serious was going down between them and Lamar, to the point where, Lamar talking about they signing their own death certificates and stuff. And I'm like, they must have really burned him. So we seen it this week. I mean, you touching baby girl, Zoe. And so that was a very desperate move on Meech's behalf. And he said that he was telling the guy Slick, like, we are desperate. I mean, you don't know what desperation will push people to. And
it was bold. I think it was desperate, but it was also very bold. Because they had gotten to a point that they needed to let people know that we mean business. Because, Lamar and them's treating them like suckers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And what did I say last week, ladies?
You were right. I'm gonna give it to you, Ron. You definitely called it last week.
I sure did.
When you were talking about Lamar and having the family and you always say this about these crime shows, being a drug dealer and being in the streets and trying to have the family life as well. It never works out.
Yeah, I mean, unless, you're in these towers like my boy Power, you're living like everybody else and you're trying to do this family thing. And by the way, shout out to Lamar, he is trying to get busy being a dad. I did like that. I saw what he was trying to do and I appreciate what he was trying to do. But you can't be living that close to the community and not expect to get touched, particularly if you're going to go out and touch everybody else. Had he kept his hands away from the stash, he could have continued to be his dad thing, Although, how late were you picking her up? If your butt was on time, it probably would have never happened to begin with.
Yeah, that's true, because he got dinged by Mo when she was like, you always late, and he said he was going to try to work on it.
Yeah.
And so, 2 seconds too late, it seems like.
Yeah, I was going to say, he may not have been that late because
he was late. There were no buses. All the buses had left. There was not a bus out there. That boy
he probably wasn't that late. Listen, Meech, you see, she called him Uncle Meech, so he knew what time she got out. We don't know. He may have come a little sooner.
I'm saying when he was at the phone trying to check in, wasn't a bus out there. Not one child, not even chewing gum paper. He was.
But it was one child, because one child was there to let him know that somebody else picked him up.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
You know what? We were talking about this last week when we saw the scene in the store, and we were like, okay, there are rules, no women, no children involved. We leave the families alone. This week, they broke that rule and it went after a child.
Mhm.
But I would argue that Lamar broke rules too, because I guess it's one thing to be beefing off of corners, but he violated too, went after their stash, you know, instead of keeping it in the streets, he turned it personal and was actually preying on them, right?
Yeah.
And I think he opened the door, which I don't agree with involving the children, but he opened the door for them to step it up, right? And make the attacks more personal, because I think he was making it more, it wasn't just about business, I think.
Right.
No, it wasn't, because he had an issue ever since he saw Meech with Mo, and that's when he made it personal. And the other thing is, while I agree with you, you don't involve the kids and the family and stuff. Meech was never going to hurt that little girl.
Right. I don't think so.
I think he played a mind game with them because he's a smooth talker, and he made them think that he was going to hurt her. But I don't believe for 1 second that he was ever going to hurt that little girl.
No, he wasn't, but the minute he took her, anything could have happened.
Anything.
Mm-hmm.
That's true.
I also agree. I agree on premise that he would not have hurt her, but when you saw the desperation of Meech and T, I mean, anything can pop off at that point, because you beat up Slick and Slick ain't talking. You've gotten now down to a point where something has to give. And let's just say that Lamar's little girl started making trouble, wanting to run away or do something to that effect. She could have been harmed accidentally or anything like that. I mean, they put themselves in such a situation that if Meech hadn't thought quickly enough to talk with Slick, anything could have happened beyond that, and it was only going down here.
And I love that conversation he had with Slick, because, Terry, he tried to rule with the iron fist.
Right.
But LaWanda, you talked about this last week when you said Meech is very good in the art of persuasion. And he really appealed to him like, I mean, this ain't gonna go good either way you put it. And so you might as well try to make yourself the hero by saving his daughter. Now, I still don't think Slick is off the hook, because Lamar's gonna be pissed he told them where the stash spot is.
Yeah, but the thing is, he brought his daughter back, and I think Meech said, what is more important to him, the stash or getting the daughter back. And
exactly.
I think bringing her back and stuff and being in good graces with Mo is more important than that stash.
And to see he took a butt whooping for it. So, I mean, he was pretty badly beaten. And so, like you said, he brought the daughter back. Stash wasn't yours to begin with anyway. The daughter, now, you have to call it, because Lamar didn't know. When he asked Kato, do you think Meech will hurt my daughter? And she said, I don't know. And I'm sure.
I still think that Lamar is a little unreasonable. Even as he was dealing with Tiny, in the crew, Tiny was right. Business is first. You sure you want to snatch everybody off the corners to deal with this? He was trying to make him live up to what he said, business first.
Right.
But Lamar is not somebody that likes to be questioned.
But that was the wrong time.
I feel like even if Slick was to say, like, look, I got your daughter back, like I had to give up the stash, but I got her back. Lamar still, that might not even be good enough for him then. He probably would have said, you should have just took the bullet, not said nothing. I feel like he's unreasonable like that.
No, I agree. I agree. And Tiny, I don't know if I were Tiny, I would bring up business at a time when somebody's daughter's snatched, because, all bets are off when my daughter is involved. So really don't bring up business with me at a time my daughter is missing. That right there is not going to settle with me.
Yeah, but I don't think Lamar would show that same sensitivity for anybody else. I think the issue with it is he is very narcissistic. It's all about him. Sure. It's almost like, in this sense, the only thing that trumps a bully is a bigger bully, and he was laughing all the way until Meech came and said, okay, you want to up it? Okay, we got you. And I think it's that was an attack on his pride, because so far he's been the bully. He's been able to intimidate people, stepped right out the insane asylum to the top of the, of the food chain, and here Meech is challenging him. So I think it was more about his pride and his ego than anything else, because had any of them had issues with their family member, he would have basically told them to go figure it out.
Yes, I agree. Did you have something to add, Tiff?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, talk about somebody trying to rule with an iron fist. That's what he did, and that's why you see that does not work. You know, that doesn't always get you loyalty when you rule like that, because you see what Tiny did later on in the show, and it made me think about Power, like when Dre started sunning 2-Bits and everything and calling them Francis and everything, the dynamics of their relationship changed, no matter the fact that they have been boys for a long time. And you see he ended up going to well, he was a rat too, but he ended up going to Tommy's side. But you know, so I'm just saying, it does not, I know sometimes you do have to you know, invoke fear and stuff to your crew, but you can't be so like hard nosed on them and stuff, because people will rebel or leave or turn on you,
especially when they weren't your crew to begin with.
Right.
Exactly, like I said, hostile takeover.
Right.
Exactly. And so that's why Tiny is, you know, using Meech now. He's buying from him, and Tiny was basically saying like, business is business. When it comes down to it, neighborhoods and colors don't matter. Business is business.
Yeah, but he also now has he probably realizes that he's going to need an ally to help get Lamar out of there, however they choose to do it, that he's a problem for everybody.
Yeah, and I like what Meech, or rather what Terry said to Meech in this whole scenario, you know, when they were talking about when Terry mentioned all the things that they're into and what they've done. And, you know, he's asking, aren't you tired of all this? And, you know, he kind of mentioned, you know, he said it might have been a better idea to take Lamar out in the very beginning. You know, of course, Meech, you know, comes back with, you know, we've done enough, and besides, who's going to do it? Are you going to do it?
Yeah.
I think there should have been some conversation about taking Lamar out. You know, he's reachable. You know where he is. You know how to get him.
They're not really killers though, and LaWanda touched on that last week. Like, you know, you saw that Terry was having, you know, flashbacks and stuff. He was traumatized by that situation with Rock.
But when you're
and they're still kids.
But see, here's the thing that folk got to understand. If you're going to get in a game, whether it's football, baseball, basketball, tennis, or the game of drug dealing, you got to accept it all or nothing, because at some point you're going to be tested, and you either going to rise to that test or you're going to fall to it.
Yeah,
which is why he grabbed Zoe, because he had to make that bold move.
Exactly. So I mean, that was a secondary move that became a very good primary move. But now he's put his family in jeopardy.
I was about to say, because Terry brought that up. That was Terry's reasoning for saying like Lamar got to go. Exactly. Because we did something this drastic. We know he gonna come back 1,000 times harder. So you just put my family, you know, LaWanda and the baby in danger. You put mom and dad and Nicole in danger. And so it's like all of these things that we're doing in the street, they have back, like the blowback from it could be affecting people that are not involved. And I think Terry has that kind of foresight where he's thinking about it. Meech is kind of like thinking about the temporary solution, like the imminent solution, like what's going to fix this right now. But I don't think he I mean, I'm sure he understands that there's going to be blowback, but in terms of how much, I think he thinks he has things under control.
Well, he's so good at blaming everything. I'm sorry, go ahead, Lamar.
No, I'm thinking he's like, well, we'll cross that bridge when we get there. That's kind of how Meech is, whereas Terry is going step by step, and if this, then what?
And then Meech is still pointing fingers at everybody else and not seeing his own dirt. And you said it too, LaWanda, about Lamar. I mean, if he decides to make a grab, he's not going to be half as nice. Lamar just might grab their sister or Terry's daughter. I mean, mom, and he just may take him out, because that's just who Lamar is. So you really set yourself up. And I don't know, I think there should have been some conversation as to that next move. You know, this move that he made might be good temporarily, but what's the long game? What's the long-term effect from that move?
Yeah. Now, Mo, she kind of put Lamar out, and I think he's still, you know, the fact that he got in so good and things were all, it was like so close,
Right.
and to have this mess it up, I think that he is going to have like a serious vendetta against Meech, because he was like in there like swimwear, and then like just like that, you know, Mo is like, you gotta go, you can't see Zoe no more, we don't want to see you. And I don't blame Mo.
I am not mad at her. When that happened, I was like, okay, she's back off the hands list. Because I was like, no, you don't play with my baby.
Right.
Yeah.
I like that, you know, analogy in there, like swimwear, but see, he's wearing Speedos and he don't look too good in Speedos. So, but you know, to me, he's going to have a meltdown, and with that meltdown, it's going to make him even weaker. So if and I don't want to make a prediction, but I guess it's going to sound like one. What I see happening is with this meltdown, he's going to make a whole lot of mistakes, which is going to cause his death.
Yeah, and I don't think he has his whole team behind him either.
Exactly.
No, that's what I said. When you're ruling like that, you know, trying to rule with fear, eventually that backfires.
And I don't know if y'all seen the previews for next week. I don't want to jump ahead too far, but it looked like Tiny and a bunch of guys was surrounding somebody that looked like it was Lamar, and they had guns pulled on them. Okay. So I'm like, I don't know, Lamar.
I didn't see the previews, but here again, let it be said. I think his demise, and to your point, Tiffany, when you try to rule with that strong arm and that hand, and then your crew starts to smell your weakness, you know, we're Homo sapiens, we're animals. All animals have that same thing. If you watch The Lion Kingdom, two male lions, well, a male lion can come into a group, and the other male lion may be, you know, not as strong or older, and that, you know, there's always this fight to see who takes the prize. So I think that's what you're seeing when you saw that clip. They're smelling Lamar's weakness now, because he's melting. He's just going, you know, left and right with things. And I think they're ready to say, look, Lamar, you know, you're going to get us killed, or we can't do business because you're crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, it's good. I mean, that situation has a lot going on, and I think that's going to continue to play out probably for the remainder of the season. Did you guys have anything you wanted to add before I switch gears?
I was going to say that I really think that Famel is eventually going to come back, because they said he went to North Carolina or whatever. He left town, but I think once he's healed, I think he might, you know, he might come back. He might start working with Meech, and you know, the team is already behind Famel. If he comes back, then there goes the uprising. And then I do believe that they're still going to have to worry about Lamar and them retaliating against the family's household, because I saw in the previews too that you know, the father and was like, what do you mean we got to leave our home?
Yes.
So yeah.
And that's what I was going to kind of shift to next, because, you know, the mom and the dad were working it out with the lawyer, and Terry was there trying to figure out if they could go for more, basically. And the opposing side basically were pointing out all of these things. You know, Terry tried to leave the hospital. That could have been your own negligence. And then they brought up the bins and the furs and stuff and all of these unrelated things. And so it was kind of like being brought to question, should we just take the settlement and do the $25,000, which to them, you know, they said they make that in a day, so that's nothing. But mom and dad, of course, don't know that. Dad is like, we should go for it. LaWanda is pushing Terry to go for it because she thinks he should have some of his own money outside of his dealings with Meech. And so I think that Meech is more concerned with the heat and the attention that it's bringing on the organization in the streets. And he's right, but it's causing even more problems at home, because as we see by the end of the episode, mom walks in and she sees Terry and Meech. I mean, I'm assuming she also heard the conversation.
Yeah, she heard the conversation.
I know for sure she's seen the drugs.
She heard it,
but I'm like, she had to have heard that.
I was like, why are they talking about this in the house? Why does he even have drugs in the house? When I saw that scene, I just knew it was a recipe for disaster.
Yeah, and before we get there, go back to Charles and Lucille having that conversation. And Charles saying, oh, that's a lot of money. See, in Charles' head, that money is his or part of it. And then you got LaWanda thinking or saying to Terry, you know, hey, we could use the money. There's another conflict brewing here because technically, Daddy, it's not your money. You know,
that's a good point, because like everybody trying to stake ownership on
$25,000, and you're not even going to get that because the lawyer got to get paid. So,
yep.
You know, so what do you have?
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point.
Yeah.
I thought it was interesting that, you know, they are out there doing this business and they're being careful, but they're not too careful because they have pictures.
Yeah.
And so it's like if a private investigator can get this picture, if the DEA was following you, you guys are out there. And I don't know if that really set in with them. It's one to be almost like blackmailed in this negotiation, because essentially that they wouldn't be able to use that, but it's the idea that they have this information and they can start making those allegations is enough, I think, to shut Terry down. If I were him, I would settle and leave it at that. He's looking for justice. I just don't know, because to me, I think they were kind of sloppy.
Well, look at you. If you were a prosecutor, LaWanda, you would stage that group of 12 to be white folk, very conservative. And all they got to do is see Meech and Terry dressed that way, $30,000 car. Man, they would shut that thing down.
It shouldn't even come in, but I think it's the idea that they have this evidence and you don't know what they're going to do with the evidence, or the fact that it can be aired or even argued, even if it's not in front of the jury. I think that's the whole issue. You want to shut that down.
Right.
And be more careful, because now you know that people have eyes on you. And if that was the DEA, that's evidence. You know what I mean?
Right.
The idea is all of this is the cars, it's the jewelry.
Yeah.
All of it is bringing attention.
That's what I was going to say too. Like when Terry made the point to Meech about, okay, you know, grabbing Zoe was bringing this unwanted attention and the heat on the family. I was thinking, well, speaking of foresight, like your situation with the lawsuit was doing the same thing.
Right.
Yeah. And I mean, there's nothing it wasn't intentional, I'll say. And I don't think it was intentional either one of their parts, but Terry's like the less flashy one. You know, he's not out there. And him and Meech had this argument about, you know, Meech being flashy when they were talking about Big L, and him saying she don't want to deal with you because you're too flashy. And so you seen Meech questioning himself, like, do you think I'm kind of like out there
with his 4-finger ring?
Yes. So I'm
diamonds on it. Yeah. I mean,
4-finger ring, Rolex chain.
You think?
Yeah.
Not just a Mercedes, but a tricked out Mercedes.
Right. And I like what his neighbor said. He said, "You trying to get me between you and Terry? No, I'm not having it." Just, you know, he gave him a drink and just sat down. Yeah, you're flashy. You in fact, you're too much for today's flashiness. You know, let alone back then.
Exactly. And I guess what I was thinking is, since we see how methodical these guys are, they plan, they're strategic, I was wondering why they hadn't invested more into having a solid plan for how they run their organization, because running it out of your mom's house and Terry stashing drugs there and Meech was living there at one point, like, why not have somewhere else? And we seen their stash spot got hit last week, but there has to be, you know, contingency plans and like backups. And so I'm like, if you're going to be this flashy, if you're going to have your stashes in your parents' household and stuff like that, then you should have had a better plan in place in case something goes wrong. And that's just what I was kind of wishing that they would have had in place, versus what we actually see, because it doesn't seem like it was well thought through.
It was a lot of luck on their side, because I was like, when Lamar showed up at Kato's house and the baby, like, they just missed Meech leaving with the baby. And then it also made me think, I was saying to myself, I was like, how did Meech know to go to Kato's house at that time? And I was like, does he suspect her? Because I kind of feel like in the back of his head, I think he still suspects her. And I feel like he may not have told the team, but I feel like he could be lightweight setting her up, like trying to weed out whether she's the mole or not. Because I was like, he went and got her, and I guess he came at the right time to just move her. But I was like,
And we seen B Mickey questioning her this episode too.
Yeah, but look what happened. One kiss, mind blown again.
I don't think so. I think that seed is planted.
It is too. I think that because especially last week when they talked about it was only 5 people that knew and stuff, and then this time when he beat them, he only beat her.
Yeah, but
go to her house and stuff. I really feel like
but if he suspects anything, then why would you bring the girl to her? Because he could have, because I wouldn't have done it.
Because it could have been a trap.
No. I'm saying if I were Meech, would I take the girl to her if I suspect Kato of anything? No, because Kato could have picked up the phone and called Lamar and says, I got your girl. So
Lamar came anyway. So that's what I'm saying. He might have been trying to feel things out.
No, I think with Lamar showing up and Meech taking the baby, all was just such a coincidence.
It was a coincidence.
And it just happened that way. But I think with Meech just thinking that she's a foot soldier and nothing more, and he wants to keep her there, it's going to take something more to wake him up.
I think he already suspects because she's the 5th person. You know, he may not have said it this episode, maybe next episode we see, but I think that he's on to her, at least in the subconscious. It's there. It's already there.
Yeah, there's definitely some suspicions there.
Yeah.
But I think he just needed an out, like somebody quick. Like, I think he thought, like, if anybody in my crew can handle a little girl that's 11 years old, it's going to be Kato. So I need a temporary drop spot for her. And I think he also probably thought, like, okay, it's a woman. She know how to deal with kids. So I think that's probably what that was. And it could have also been him feeling her out. Like you said, I hope that they figure it out sooner than later. Kato, she's just in a weird space to be in with these 2 crews, one that can outthink you in terms of like Meech and Terry, and then one that's just a huge threat to your life with Lamar. So I don't think she's really skating on thin ice. She doesn't have too much longer before things spill over.
I agree.
I just kind of felt for her. I was like, she has to find somewhere else to live because Lamar just finds her and she's too vulnerable when it comes to him, you know? So either she's going to have to tell or she's going to have to help, you know, she's got to
take him out. She might be the one to take him out.
Look, I'm going to say this and I'm probably going to get in trouble again, but look, ladies, you know, the feeling and all that. I don't feel nothing for Kato. She put herself where she belongs. She's in that position because she put herself there. And if she wants to get out, she's going to have to take herself out. And that to me means you got to put a bullet in Lamar's head. If you do not do that, as you all have said otherwise, it's going to come down on her either on Terry and Meech's end or Lamar's end. Lamar has already got that close to killing you by finding you, or rather catching up with you and seeing that you're watching a kiddie show. I mean, Lamar's not stupid. Well, he is, but let me say
this. He's not. No, he's not.
He's not crazy. He might be crazy too, but he thinks he's got these periods of cognitive success. So, you know, I don't know, but I do know if I were Kato, I would be thinking very hard and seriously about taking this brother out some way, somehow. If it's by the bullet or by some magic potion, you got to go.
Yeah, and I think she hasn't, like, if I'm thinking about if I was in her position, would I go to Terry and Meech and say something? But I think the thoughts of people in their crew is that they know they don't want to resort to violence. And so I think she feels like it's no point in me telling Terry and Meech because they ain't gonna do nothing to kill him anyway. And so I think that's why she's kind of like keeping it to herself for now and trying to work through it the best way she can. Because there's no way out but for her to do it herself in this case. So I don't know. I'm still curious as to when Terry and Meech find out if they'll use her to get Lamar out of there and then get her out of there too. So it could go both ways. It seems like both crews are using her and she's just caught in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying that it's not, she didn't put herself in this predicament, but I as a woman, regardless of if that was the situation I chose, being pressed like that and just never knowing when this crazy person is going to show up.
Pull up. He pulls up at will.
And just runs through the house.
Yeah, he does. He pulls up at will no matter what. He put a gun in her mouth. I mean, sheesh.
Time to sit him down with a drink. When the next time he pulls up, hey, Lamar, sit down. We're going to have a drink, put something in it.
Now, I wanted to talk about somebody else who might gotta go, Pat. I mean, Pat really is no longer somebody that Meech can trust or even be a part of his organization. He's
desperate.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, the way Meech rolled in there, he was really trying to reason with him, but Pat, he's just not open to any type of compromise.
But you don't,
there's nothing to
but you
negotiate.
don't reason with Pat like that. I mean, you walk in and say, I'm out. Just like that.
Pat is a crackhead. I don't he was being reasonable when he talked to Pat. Okay. Pat has been stepping on their necks.
Okay.
And trying to keep him, and he tried to give him respect as an OG.
But what would you expect from Pat? See, my point is playing chess, guys. This isn't checkers. So you got to know that if you walk in with that attitude, you have to ask, but you have to, no, the attitude is, I'm done, you're done, we're done. I'm saying if you walk in, he has a point. No, don't hear me out. I'm not saying that he does not have a point, and I'm not saying that he wasn't correct. He was. But what I'm simply saying to you is, you got to take a step back and go, okay, if I go this way, what's going to happen? He's obviously going to rebel, and he's obviously going to be angry. So am I willing to take that right now? And if the answer is yes, go for it. But you have to understand there's going to be retribution to you coming in like that on Pat. Pat's not going to just sit and sit still with that, which is why, what did he do? He became a snitch, or tried to, because, you know, he's looking at it from that.
But it just goes to show that he's desperate. And it also reinforces the idea that he is no longer on top, that he's fallen off. That confirms what Rock said last week. He's fallen off. He does not have the clout that he once had for him to resort to snitching.
Exactly. I agree with that.
And that's the only reason why he was trying to keep Meech and them in their place, because they were their high rollers. They were the ones that was bringing him money. And now with them gone, he doesn't have much.
I agree.
He doesn't have anything.
I 100% agree with you. But again, you have to think about the consequences to making that move. You put a desperate man in a corner. It's like a rat. A rat will give you a hell of a fight if you corner it. And that's what you're seeing from Pat. So I cannot blame Pat for coming out the way he has, because he's desperate. You've already said it. He's a desperate man. He can see his loss, and he's using his own stuff. So this man is, what else can he do?
Well, I can blame Pat, and that's why I'm putting him on a hands list this week.
Okay.
I don't care what you say.
Okay, Tiff.
You can cop all the pleas you want for Pat.
Tiff, rock
Pat
on.
is on the hands list.
Rock on, Tiff. You rock on, Tiff. You got it. I'm just saying he's a desperate rat caught in the corner. But
that's what LaWanda said about Kato. But you have a lot of empathy for.
That's not empathy. No, go back. That is not empathy. I am simply saying you are what you eat. So if you eat mess will come out. So you are the owner of all of this turmoil that you have coming towards you. And
you saying that about Kato?
Oh yeah, no, I'm saying that about Kato and Pat. So what I'm simply saying, only thing I'm simply saying with Pat is your demise is closer because A, you were tapping in on your own supply. B, you were mistreating and cutting Meech and Tiff short. I mean, and Terry short.
Cut me short.
I got you on my mind. I'm sorry, I gotta clear this out. But so you this is what's gonna happen. You're causing your own death.
Mm-hmm. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, Tiff.
I was just gonna say that, Meech said, he was like, You know, he tried to give him props. He was like, you know, you were like a father to us. You took us, like he was trying to stroke his ego and still part ways and still give him love. It was Pat that like he put paws on him, you know, and then he sunned him, he banished them and stuff. Like they didn't have to end on those terms and stuff. And then you won't run and be a snitch. But it was nice to see him, Wood Harris and Steve Harris in that scene together. Those two brothers. So that was real cool.
That was cool. Well, I mean, man to man, anything goes. It's just that simple. You know, you come in like that, anything can happen. Meech, more props. You took it like a man. You took that, you know, you took that look. You didn't strike back. Although I think he would have ended if he had hit Pat, because Pat don't look like he's standing up straight anyways. You know, he seems like to me he's always high. So you know, who knows? But it is what it is now. They are now officially enemies. So Meech had better start making plans about Pat, just as he better start making plans about Lamar.
Mm-hmm. I was thinking about Pat. I watched Succession. It's another show, and it made me think about these OGs. What happens when you're not ready to retire, or you
past your prime?
You passed your prime, and that's just the situation. Because if the reason he's falling off because he has the drug problem, or does he have the drug problem because he's falling off? It doesn't matter. He's not relevant anymore. Mm-hmm. And he can try to stay relevant, but he has these two new guys who are better at the game than he is. There's nothing he can do to stop them. He can try. And like you said, that is his desperate move, but it's almost like a person in Pat's position. Who did he replace? Mm-hmm. And so that maybe it's the fear of the same thing happening to him. And we don't know how he did with his OG, right? Maybe it's just chickens coming home to roost.
Which is why we need to go back to Power and see how my boy tried to end himself, get out of that game, because it just doesn't work. Nobody retires from the drug game. You're either dead.
Oh, you're talking about Ghost.
Yeah.
You have an exit strategy.
Yeah, your exit strategy in the drug game is either you're dead or you're in jail. Because one of those two are going to catch up with you. And what I liked about Ghost is his exit strategy was, while I'm on top, let's give this to somebody else. I want to go out and do other things. And I think we're going to see that with Meech and, well, we will see that with Meech and Terry. They're going to get that revelation that you got to do other things.
Yeah, I mean, from what we know, they did diversify their business a little bit later on. So, I mean, I guess the thing that I was thinking of with Pat too is going to the police officer, Bryant, and then offering him the money. And he was really, like he said, not only ratting, but being a hater. It doesn't appeal to me. If I was somebody in that position and you're making this proposition, me seeing you talk down on other people that were once a part of your crew does not sound appealing.
That's why I think he deserves a hands this week. He did too much. I think he deserves his spot on the hands list this week.
Mm-hmm. And I think Detective Bryant is maybe not too far behind, because he's getting in a desperate spot himself.
Yeah.
And it's only a matter of time before he does some crazy mess that is out of the ordinary. Right now, we've seen him get pulled into the interrogation room with the witness that seen him snatch J-Mo. And so it's a stroke of good luck for him, because the guy seemed to have had all of the details down, but still wasn't quite able to call him out, in front of Lopez.
I think
so it was a stroke of luck.
He realized after he got out that room.
Yeah, he did.
Right. He realized he's dealing with a cop, and that's probably why he's.
That's why he read. And I think Meech paid him or something, right?
Yeah,
well, later on he did, because they had a follow-up visit where he was saying like, oh, I think I remember some more stuff. But by the time they got there, their neighbor was like, oh yeah, he's gone. I seen him with some boxes and looked like he might not be back for a while.
But here's another reason I think Detective Bryant didn't want to work with Pat, is because I think at this point he's already set in his mind, I got to get out. I got to get out fast. And we saw that when he gave the money back to Meech.
Yeah.
So I think his moves are desperate moves, but at least he knows that they're coming down on him real quick. And what did we see? His partner followed him there.
We knew that partner was on to him.
Oh yeah, and so should he have. He should have known. Well, I know he knew, but you know, I don't know. Do you think your partner's just? I don't know what he thought about his partner, but it's going to be interesting to see where we go from now that his partner sees him with Meech. I don't know if he saw the exchange of money. He
had to. He gave the money back to Meech. He had to see it.
I'm assuming he did. I don't know, but my point being is, Detective Bryant is in a hell of a lot of mess right now.
And you know, the officer seen him going through the car, picking up the earring and whatnot too. So
yes, I think the officer. These are my predictions. I was like, either Officer Bryant is end up having to kill the partner and like setting that up or something, or either the officer is also going to be a dirty cop and say like, hey, you want me to keep my mouth shut, then you need to cut me in. You know, that's another option. He might want his piece of the pie.
He seemed like he too straight-laced though.
He does seem like it. That's why I said that I think the first option is going to probably be the one. They probably want to get him up out of there.
I'm about to say his facial hairs are too clean and straight for me to think that he's a crooked cop.
I was wondering if he was setting him up when he told him about the earrings too.
I thought he was. I thought he was.
That's a good idea. I mean, he could have planted that earring in the car.
He could have.
And that's why he showed up at the time. You know, that's a good point, LaWanda.
I think he was setting him up.
Yeah.
Yeah, or either just feeding him information to see what he would do and how he would react. Because if you're guilty and somebody feeds you something that you know you had something to do with, you're going to react. Yeah. You're going to try to cover your tail.
SETUP.
So I'm really I'm trying to figure out where we're going to end by this, because it's only 3 episodes left and it's a lot of developments that have taken place, and it's like, wow, they're going to leave us on a cliffhanger this season. I just feel it coming.
Well, I think since Mo is through with Lamar, and it looks like Lamar's crew is through with him, and he now has Meech and Terry on his back, of all the characters I think that can get their demise, he would be the first to go. So I'm thinking that we can see Lamar go as quickly as the next episode or the one following, but I believe it's going to be this next one coming.
Probably before the end of the season. Mm-hmm. And it'll probably be another, because the new connect, we're going to see the new connect next week.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, I was going to bring him up because Terry was talking to Meech and Tiffany. You brought this up last week when you said, you know, just because Terry had Big L in the picture, you know, basically if I have the plug and you don't, then it's still a win for both
for the team,
because we're on the same team. And that's what Terry was trying to emphasize that to him. But based on the previews that we see for next week, it looks like Meech is still shopping around for a new plug. And so I'm like, Terry called him a narcissist, and it seemed like it's coming through because he just can't accept not being the front man.
That's what I said last week, and you'll see if you know anything about the real story, what I'm saying to you, it's true. I won't mention it, but in case those out there want to see and check for themselves. But yes, he's too much a narcissist to let go.
Yeah, so I was just like, wow, he really just gonna keep shopping.
And I think that's gonna be dangerous for the crew too. So even with Lamar going, them, doing dealings with a new connect and stuff, that's gonna be more complications.
Mm-hmm. And then it brings into like internal issues because the crew is not going to know who to be loyal to, Terry or Meech. And so it's like this internal conflict that can cause separation within the crew, and they don't have any space for that right now. They have too many outside problems to be fighting in their crew. So I just think that I hope that Meech by the end of the season can learn to have more trust in the situation with him and Terry and who they're going to go to for their plug. So we'll see.
I think before the end of the season, I think they're going to find out for sure about Kato too. And it's going to be interesting to see how they handle it. My son was saying the real Kato is still alive, so I guess she doesn't get killed. But I was wondering, I mean, this is TV. Like, will they make the move and have her, off?
I've heard that the real Lamar is still alive too. I mean, it's so hard to find information about some of these people, and I guess for good reason. Well, but I was just saying, like, maybe they'll take some creative liberties on the show because it's kind of loosely based on the truth, or so it seems.
Either that or they frame him for J-Mo's murder.
That's what I was thinking. I was thinking that they'll do that. They're probably going to frame him for the murder.
And that would be and that could be with the help of Detective Bryant. In fact, that's a good way to go.
To kill two birds with one stone.
Well, that's it.
Definitely the problem. They need him off the streets.
Yeah, so I don't know where the situation with Charles is going to land either. Whether the issues that are going on with their family being in danger will cause Charles to come back into the household to be the protector.
Well, the mom now is going to really acknowledge that both of her sons are doing this, right? Because that was my issue, that you know your children, right? We can pretend like we don't, but at the heart, I want to say moms know, we know our children and we know when they're lying. So she had to know and look at Terry like, he's lying. Of course, he could cover for his brother, but it's more likely that he's doing this with him than it is he's just an innocent bystander and just getting gifts from Meech.
Yeah. You can see her face when they showed the pictures of them getting out the car and the chains, all the stuff. You can see it on her face. I was like, she knew. I mean, she knew then the realization. And
it's denial.
It was denial. And now
it's Mama Bear and her cubs being put into a corner. And that's where Charles has got to understand. You know, he keeps pressing Mama, and you already see Lucille is like, okay, since you left, you don't need to know nothing.
He was trying to say, you know these children, okay?
Right.
Don't put your blinders on, and don't be blinded by that maternal instinct and that maternal love. You got to see the truth, and you know that this is what these boys are doing. And it's okay. It was almost like, for whatever reason, they want to paint Meech as the
black sheep.
I don't want to use that word.
The problem child.
The problem child. Yeah.
Child.
Damon. What was that? Damon, the bad son or whatever.
Damien.
Yeah. And so and it's like he took that rap, but part of it is, I think as a parent, did she recognize, that the two of them are like this, and whenever they got in trouble together. Right. So it's more likely that they were doing it together rather than Terry just allowing him to do it on his own and taking money, gifts, cars, or whatever. Because if it was just that, I think he probably would have. I think if it was just that, I could see him saying, okay, well, Meech bought me a car and I was hiding it. But for him to completely deny it, that
right.
More than anything.
Yeah. And I think the last few words of the episode where I guess this is older Meech reflecting on the situation, and he's saying, when you lie, you got to keep telling more lies to cover up the lies. And then by the end of the episode, he's saying, and it turns out the only person you're really lying to is yourself.
True.
Right. And I think that applies in everybody's case, because I think that mom was lying to herself, thinking that the kids wasn't involved. I think Terry and Meech were lying to themselves, thinking that they had a initial plan to get in, get money, support themselves and their family. But Meech doesn't want that. He wants an empire. And I think they were lying to themselves and thinking that it wasn't going to get dangerous. It wasn't going to affect the family.
I was going to say that too. They thought they could just get money, but you can't get money without getting your hands dirty.
Not like that. It's too much. It's too much, right? Because I think if you don't have, and you see people being able to drive cars, but for them to make that kind of money and it to seem to come so easy, I do think that is something that kind of corrupts you in a sense.
It's addictive. It's extremely addictive.
Yeah.
And I want to say this about Lucille, because I'm questioning whether she should be on the hands list. And here's why. Now that you know, no, I'm not
anti. About it, but I was like, no, we can't do that to mom.
Well, look.
Well, he wanted to put Charles on the hands list last week.
Look at it this way. Now, Charles has been trying to tell you all along, and now at the end, that's toward the end of the show, we see Mom's listened in, saw what she saw. Does she go back, or should she go back to her husband and say, wait.
Yeah, she is.
She should go back to him and say, I was wrong. You were right.
She was like, these boys, both of my boys are in the street. And in the preview, she is talking to him about it. And I think that's going to get them on one page.
Then you know what? I'm going to wait till next week before I put her on the hands list. But I'm going to tell you, if Lucille doesn't go back and make amends to Charles and some kind of apology, if I don't hear one, she's on the hands list next week, all right?
We'll see. Look at her warming up her seat on the hands list now.
That's right. She's got a nameplate on that seat. Now, whether she wears it or not, we'll see next week.
Okay.
I felt her. She was like, not my Terry, no.
Yeah, it's interesting that Terry has all the stuff going on. I'm like, what happened to school? I ain't seen him back in school since the fight, and him getting shot.
So, the teacher brought his schoolwork to the bowling alley, so he's doing his work from home.
Yeah, it's just crazy that he can have all of this going on and still be in high school. So
right,
and still be living at home. But it's interesting too, because I think about that time period. We knew people in high school that was doing that kind of stuff. So it is interesting for them to have these kind of really, really adult lives, but still be children.
Because both of them have children too. That's the thing. They have their own families.
Yeah, babies raising babies.
Yeah.
So I'm just looking forward to next week. I know that, like I said, they keep stepping it up every week. I'm loving the actors and the crew, especially like some of the newer faces. I don't think we've ever seen Cash Doll as an actress. I think she's killing it. She brought a lot of emotion this episode. Meech is very convincing. Like he's so convincing to just believe him. His emotions are raw, and he seems like he's so in the moment when he's acting. And so I think that they are doing a fantastic.
I said that to my son. I was like, oh, okay. I said, for the first time, you can see he's really doing his thing and everything. And you can see the progression as the weeks go by. So I'm like, oh, he's looking, even more like a natural in front of the camera.
Yeah, I think he's too natural. I think we better go look at his background, see what he's really doing.
Oh, be quiet. Eric, Kofi Abrifa is Lamar.
Continues. We've brought him up before, but he continues to kill it every week.
Killing it.
Yeah. So shout out to them. Keep bringing the heat. That's all I can say. And I know we are absolutely looking forward to next week. So make sure that you guys are back here with us when we go to do episode 6. I believe, like I said, every week, I think there's only 8 episodes in the season. So it's quickly winding down. They've already been renewed. So I hope that they are cooking up, next season already. I know it's going to be fire because they cannot leave us for too long, once things wind down. Also be aware that we are going to be recapping Insecure as well. So any Insecure fans out there, make sure that you are tuned into our recaps for that show also. Tonight, yes. Click the subscribe button, like this video, click the notification bell so that you get alerted once we start posting our videos. And there will be occasions where we do go live too. So be on the lookout for those. We'll announce them ahead of time, and we would love to have you guys on with us to chat live as we do a recap. That would be awesome.
And by the way, you brothers out there that have been holding my back up with these 3 ladies, appreciate you. I really do. Much love. I appreciate you.
Well, I'm put yourself in those positions.
I know.
Because somebody tweeted me and said, tried to defend Ron and said, don't worry, he just got ahead of himself. They were like, so they knew that you were tripping, they're just still trying to come to your aid.
And look, I appreciate any help I can get, okay, because I need it.
And as always, make sure you drop down in the comment section. Let us know what you thought about this episode and give us your predictions for next week and the season as well. Anybody got anything else to add? No? All right. Well, I think we're going to call it a night. Make sure that if you are still up later on tonight, that you catch our Insecure recap as well. So stay tuned for that. And until next week, I think we're going to call it a night and see you again when we come back to recap episode 6.
Good night.
Bye-bye.
Bye.